I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order since it's 7 o'clock. June 1st, 2026 Caledonia Township Planning Commission regular meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Skolbeck. LeClaire.
Here.
Milan.
Here.
McKinnon.
Okay, we have a quorum. Need an approval of the agenda. Motion by Barb. Second by Ryan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment. Anybody have anything you want to say? Give you a chance once we get into our agenda items too. There's one or two more agendas right here if you want one. Anybody? Speak once, speak twice. John, you're way too quiet. Close the public comment. We have the minutes from the April 6th, 2026 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 6th meeting.
Okay. We have a motion by Ken.
I'll second it.
Okay, support from Ryan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Written correspondence. I did not get any written correspondence. Nothing. Okay. Reports. Board of Trustees. Anthony's not here, so we'll get none. Zoning Board of Appeals, none. Zoning Administrator, Nick's not here. Tri-Township Planning, do you want to fill us in a little bit on that, or is there anything special?
Nothing too crazy.
We finished up they were finishing up the master plan.
Nothing too wild.
The next Tri-Township meeting is going to be here on July, second or third week, Thursday in July, second Thursday in July.
I got it wrote down on the 13th.
Is it? Okay.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
13th.
That's our meeting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our meeting's the 13th.
Yeah. The Tri-Township's usually a week later,
Oh,
so, but in our June meeting, we'll post the date of that meeting, so. All right. I did not have any new business. Anybody have anything to add from you? Okay, having none, we'll go to old business, short-term rentals. For you folks, I'll give you a little bit of an update. Our township board asked us to look at, they had somebody come to the board late last summer, and the township board asked us, the planning commission, to look at short-term rentals. Right now, Caledonia Township essentially does not have a short-term rental ordinance. So there is really no rules, no plays. It's kind of whatever you want, you can do as far as short-term rentals. Our neighbors, Alcona Township, I think they have an ordinance that does not allow short-term rentals. So we basically have one side of the spectrum to the other in two neighboring townships. And I think Hawes does allow them with a permit, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So we spent several months looking at short-term rentals. We looked at several different ordinances. Each of us took one or two communities across the state. We looked at Higgins Lake, Houghton Lake, gosh, over Traverse City area, Torch
Torch
Lake, several communities over there, and looked at all the different ordinances they had. And basically went through an information gathering session for a couple months. And then back in December, right around the first of the year, we published a Survey Monkey that went out. We had a pretty good response from that, especially considering the Survey Monkey questionnaire that we did a couple years ago regarding, I think it was the master plan, if I'm not mistaken. And this was just for Caledonia Township, where the master plan survey was for all 3 townships. But we got a pretty good feedback from that one. And so we've been debating and deliberating the short-term rentals for a couple months since then. And at our last meeting, we've decided that moving forward, what we're looking at is it's the discussion to date has pretty much been creating an ordinance that I'll give a couple bullet points that we've talked about. Having basically a permit system, which would essentially let the township know who's doing short-term rentals. And essentially what it would be is we talked about a 3-year permit for 3 years that would be renewable. And essentially treat a permit as kind of a information gathering for a property owner that wants to utilize their property or their home for short-term rentals. So essentially what the permit would ask the homeowner to do is look at their septic systems, call the health department, get a copy of their septic system and learn about it and find out how many bedrooms and how many people their septic system can handle. Some of this came after our discussion last year with the busyness in your business after the 4th of July. Same with the wells. Have your well tested to make sure your water is good. And then the remainder of the items that we had talked about was having a designated agent close by, within so many miles of the short-term rental, and then the name of that designated agent would be compiled and put on the township's website. So if you're a neighbor and somebody is in for the weekend and creating havoc, for lack of a better term, at least there's a number on the township's website that you can call. At least you can let the property owner know, hey, can you go check out your people and quiet them down or whatever. Our township is, we're not in the township doesn't have the resources to be able to fully adhere to a really strict ordinance. In other words, if somebody is raising hell, the township just doesn't have somebody that can come out and enforce that. So it's more of an informational permit, for lack of a better term. And then the last thing that we were looking at was posting a tenant notice in the rental. In other words, kind of posting some quiet hours, limiting fireworks, maximum occupancy, as well as maximum parking. In other words, if you're going to rent your place out, at least let your renter know how much parking you have and what your occupancy is. So it's kind of more, it's not really we're not really trying to restrict short-term rentals, but we're just it's more of an informational thing to help educate a property owner. If you're going to do it, make sure you look at this stuff. And that's what this planning commission has basically gotten to since that point, or since we started looking at this. And basically that's where we're at today. So we've put together a list of things, and what our goal is, not knowing, we have a quorum tonight if we vote on this, not knowing which way it would go, is if this gets approved, we would send it back to the township board and ask the board to have the township's attorney essentially draft a application and draft an ordinance. So that ordinance would be separate from our zoning ordinance, just like we have a blight ordinance right now that's separate, and there's a couple other ordinances that we have that are separate from the zoning ordinance. So it'd be its own standalone ordinance from this book that this body deals with all the time. If it gets that far and the attorney drafts a new ordinance and an application, then it would come back probably through the township board to us for a public hearing. That's where we would gather. It would be posted in the paper. It would be posted on the township's website, and then we'll have a public hearing. So that would probably take 2 or 3 months, I'm sure, before it gets back here. So, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm Russ Abbott, I live on the west side.
Okay.
And that survey you say you sent out, I talked to probably 24 people on the west side that live on the lake, and only one of them said they received it. So, I don't know how you get your numbers, but the majority of the people I talked to, every one of them said that they didn't like short-term rentals, they didn't want them. So, I think there's a little problem there with people on the lake not getting information on what's going on.
Yeah, I know for certain that that's always a difficult thing, but I know that it was posted on the website.
Yeah, I know.
In fact, it might still be on the website, I'm not
It's
sure.
posted on the website, but
Yeah. And
not many people
Yeah.
get that.
And it was also posted on I Love Hubbard Lake that there's a survey, because I know that I asked Cindy Epsy to put it
But
on.
I'll bet everybody that's wanting a short-term rental that owns them is probably on that website.
We
So they
didn't
probably
mail them,
filled
did
it
we?
out and said that, yeah, they would like short-term rentals.
Yeah.
So I don't think you got a true reading on really what the public wants.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty with doing, we had the same issue with the questionnaire on the master plan also.
And, you know, what you're doing is gonna affect the people that live on the lake. They don't wanna have somebody they don't know live next to them. And then next week, they got somebody else. It's not fair to the people that live on the lake.
Yeah, I completely understand, and this has been a very, very difficult, the posting aside from the Survey Monkey, this has been, I will say that this has been a very, very difficult thing for us, and every community struggles with this right now. There's arguments, and I saw all the Facebook posts in the last couple weeks, and I saw the sign. This is not an 80-20 issue, this is a 50-50 issue. I think there's a lot of people that are for them. There's a lot of people argue that it's good for our economy, our local economy. It promotes people coming in and coming to our businesses. But I agree, I also live on the lake myself, and I personally had a neighbor that put their house up on a short-term rental. The one good thing about having an ordinance and having the, help me out, Airbnb, there's two major.
VRBO.
VRBO. I have to say that my neighbor posted or advertised theirs on one of the two. And I have to say that those renters were actually pretty good. Now, that's not saying that it's going to be the case for everybody. There's always the bad apple. But what I do like is I do like the fact that at least there's a format that allows the renters to be critiqued. In other words, if there's an issue with a renter, they basically get a scorecard, from what I understand, from VRBO or Airbnb that says, hey, this renter was not very good. And if they're a good renter, they also get a scorecard on the plus side. And the renters also do the same thing with the property owners. The difference between that and something like where Alcona is, Alcona doesn't allow them. And I would have to believe that there's probably short-term rentals in Alcona.
Well, they need to enforce their ordinances.
That's the problem, is then you get into kind of a free-for-all. And aside from the fact that right now Caledonia doesn't have an ordinance. And I think the whole reason why this was brought up was because we have a portion of the township that we've had one of our residents that's come to this planning commission and said out of 10 homes on my street, there's 7 short-term rentals. I hear that. I'm a property owner on the lake, and I understand that.
How do they police like sex offenders renting?
We're not in the policing business.
I know, but think about the person living next to it.
Yeah, that's no different than I'm only answering that. That's no different than
Well,
a sex offender
just
buying a
concerns.
house next door.
Well, I know, but they'd have to register. You'd know they were there. Wouldn't
Could
you?
be. I haven't looked into that, but again, there's so many things we can come up with, and we debated so many different things with this. This is a tough one. So, yeah. But with respect to the posting, it did go out on I Love Hubbard Lake. It was on the website.
It seems like they would send a letter to all the people that lived on the lake. to make
This
sure
is
that
not just a lake issue.
Well,
This
it's affecting the
is a
people.
township issue.
It's affecting them.
Well, there are people that are renting out cabins out on the trail, people that rent out hunting camps.
Nobody lives next to them.
Doesn't matter, we're not separating.
I know what you're doing, but it doesn't.
So we're trying to keep this ordinance so it's not just pointing at the lake, because then we have a whole different issue with people on the trail, for
Well, you're
instance.
not pointing at the lake, but the reason we got all these Airbnbs is because of the lake.
I think the reason we have all the Airbnbs is because there's a thing called Airbnbs now. And there's a thing called the internet. And that's how it's advertised, obviously. So, yeah, it's a new world. And I don't think I shouldn't say it's a new world, because other communities have been dealing with this for 10 years. It's my understanding that the state, I remember when I first started on this planning commission 4 years ago, the state was looking at creating an ordinance, a statewide ordinance for short-term rentals, and they never did. Because it was a hot issue back then probably as well, I would imagine. So,
Well, it failed is why.
I'm sorry,
It didn't pass.
I don't know that it ever got brought to a vote.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
It
I
didn't
don't,
pass.
because there's several of them that were, kind of got stalled.
This Michigan Supreme Court didn't pass it. Yeah.
I'm not-
I just don't
I'm not
think
aware of
that,
but-
I just don't think that the people are being informed. They don't know what's going on.
We've had the same issue with the master plan. And with the master plan, we actually put notices out in every tax bill. 3 townships did. Every property owner in 3 townships got a notice. And we had people coming to us at the public hearing saying we never knew about it. It was posted I don't know that this was posted in the Alcona paper, but if we have a public hearing, it will be posted in the paper. The master plan did go through the same process. We did the same process with the Survey Monkey. It got posted on I Love Hubbard Lake. It got posted on the township website. Those are really the 2 outlets that we have available, shy of sending a letter and going through that to every property owner in the township. That we did not do. But, we have to look at, there has to be some responsibility on every property owner to say, hey, what's going on in our township? And so it's kind of a 2-sided thing. You know, we don't have anybody that can run and knock on your door and say, hey, there's something happening. And we know that there's enough talk around this small community that usually everybody finds out about it in one format or another.
Well, a lot of people know about it now.
For sure. And it's gonna get to a point, if this passes and goes through the board to the township attorney and comes back, it's gonna get to a point where it will be published in the paper. It will be published for a public hearing and public comment. That's the official time that people can comment on it. And the reason that we're doing it this way is the township board asked us to look at what can we do, so we spent the time and the energy to look at what's possible, what's best for Caledonia Township, for the residents, one or the other side. And we're sending this back to the board. They may kick it back to us and say, hey, we don't like what you guys are thinking, let's try this.
Well, I was under the impression that it was going through and it was just a matter of fine tuning things.
It is, right now, we're at step one of several steps. And frankly, nobody's made a motion until possibly tonight to move it from step one to step two. But we've been studying this for, we may have been studying it when you guys were
In
here
your
last-
defense, it's been weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months.
Yeah.
And the problem is, people don't come to the meetings to hear these things. I come, doesn't affect me, but I still come. They need to come to the meetings if they want to know what's going on and ask questions.
I think too, as far as, it needs to be addressed one way or another. Because if we do nothing, they're just playing, just like it is right now, no ordinance for nor against.
Well, we had
And we
an
also
ordinance.
don't even have,
We had an ordinance in 19, didn't we?
no, I don't think so.
I believe we did.
No.
Was it 17 then? I know there was a short-term ordinance.
And the thing about it is I think everybody would rather have at least notification that they're there, a contact person, and some basic information, and we will try to post rules. But I think what's going on is we don't have a police officer. We don't have a person to knock on their door at 3 a.m. and get out of bed and say, enforce this, because there just isn't anyone.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah,
It
I know.
sounds like it's a bad
But-
situation that probably
But
shouldn't go through with.
what's your alternative though? Because if there's nothing, they're still gonna have short-term rentals, but they are gonna be totally out there. You know, we're trying to find some kind of medium ground, I think, so that we know that they're going to have rentals, but we have some recourse or some input. And I don't think that means it can't be ever changed,
Oh, no, it can be changed.
you know, because this is gonna evolve. There's more and more people on the lake, there's more and more interest, there's more and more good and bad happening, so I think, you know, just like you said, okay, sex offender, God forbid that were to happen, but if
Well,
some
it's gonna
big problem
happen. It's just a
happened,
matter of time.
then we would come back and say, look, this has been a problem. What are we gonna do about it? And I think everyone in our township would then have input.
Drug
you know-
drug dealers take vacations too.
I agree, I know, but it's just, truly, somebody's gonna walk in the door and you can't say, are you this, 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 and this? So what we're trying to do, I think, is find a middle ground.
If there is the way that the VRBO, these websites, these companies, they monitor their renters. So everybody that rents gets a scorecard, for lack of a better term. I'm gonna rent one for the first time this winter. And that's how it gives the property owner the opportunity to say, okay, this guy's got an A+ score, I'm gonna rent to him, or this guy's got a D- score, maybe I don't want to rent to them, because the property owners can do that. The alternative to an ordinance that we're looking is having nothing. where people can go and rent their house out and nobody has any recourse against it, and that's what we have right now. People are putting their houses up either on one of these two websites or even on the internet. You see on I Love Herb. I have a cabin for rent this weekend. Anybody want to rent it, come rent it. That's kind of a free-for-all. At least we have, by doing this, we have, number one, we have a permit that the township has the right to take away a permit. We have some small rules set in place to at least let the property owners know that, hey, you bought this house, you're thinking about renting it out, go to the health department and make sure your septic tank is working.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that.
And if it's not, then if the health department doesn't have any information, then go see somebody like this gentleman.
I just put a new septic in my place.
So the health department will have your records, so you would have that, when you submit a permit application, you would have that to submit to the.
I asked the inspector how they handle short-term rentals. And she just said, what do you mean? And I said, well, they can't just go by bedrooms when you got 10, 12 people staying there every night. How do you go by bedrooms? She said, well, that's what we do. That's how we do it. We go by bedrooms, period. Doesn't matter how many people stay there.
But that's the best mechanism that we could figure out for a property owner to be able to determine, can my house handle 4 people or 20 people? And if your septic system is only designed to handle 4 people, then maybe you shouldn't be renting your house out to 20 people. That was this planning commission's way of at least trying to inform and educate property owners to at least look into it before you do it.
Sounds like you're putting a lot of trust in the renters.
It's a better mechanism than the system that we have right now. Because right now we don't have a system. So, and that's what we're doing. It's not something we're not. We've had deliberations about several other aspects to be able to try to govern it. The problem is that our township doesn't have a police officer that can run around enforcing all of this. Same with traffic. You get too much traffic, you call the township, the zoning administrator or whoever says call the sheriff. The sheriff doesn't have the manpower to be able to enforce ordinances like this anywhere in the county. So it's more of a way for essentially the township to educate the property owner. If you're going to do this, at least look at this. And that was the best that we could figure out how to do something rather than just leaving it a free-for-all. Anybody else have any questions? Comments?
Something's better than nothing.
We think so. All right, having none, any other discussions? Would anybody care to make a motion?
I'm not sure how to word it, but I'd make a motion to go to step 2, which is pass it to the board, have the attorney review, include the things that we've just talked about. To make a motion more specific then?
I don't think so. You maybe want to read it. You might want to read it out loud.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to create an initial permit application, good for 3 years, with verbiage for renewal periods, fee to be determined by the township board, with requirements of the information regarding a septic system, require the property owner to obtain verification from the district health department of the maximum building occupancy based on the capacity of the septic system. B, in the event that no records are available at the DHD, the property owner shall hire a septic installer to inspect the existing septic system for size and capacity and provide a report to the DHD to which a maximum building occupancy can be determined. Require that septic systems be pumped every 3 years. Require the property owner to have a water sample test completed for the well to determine safe drinking water. Provide the name and phone number of the designated agent that should be accessible within a to-be-determined amount of miles/minutes of the short-term rental. Who will be the person responsible in charge of the short-term rental. The name and phone number for the designated agent to be posted in a list of permitted short-term rentals on the township's website. Prepare a notice to neighbors to be mailed to all property owners within a certain number of feet of the short-term rental, of the presence of the short-term rental. Prepare a tenant notice to be posted within the short-term rental to notify renters of the short-term rental rules, which include quiet hours, fireworks limitations, maximum occupancy, and maximum parking allowed.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have any second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Barb, second by Ken. Any discussion on the motion? Just for the record, I being a property owner on the lake, and having lived by, right next to a short-term rental, I had a lot of debate about this amongst myself and my wife. And this is a very, very difficult thing for me. I actually kind of was initially hoping to have a little bit more in it than less than what we're proposing. But I think something is better than nothing. And I think this is an opportunity for us to take a system right now that really wasn't a system, and it's something that we create a little bit of a format to it and see how that goes, with the understanding that at any point in the future, this can come back to the township and adjustments can be made as we gain experience in regulating short-term rentals. And what we are going to learn moving forward is we're going to learn if the township board is amenable to this. They may come back and tell us, look at something totally different or modifications. But that's the one thing that I had struggled with, and one of the things I had struggled with probably a little bit more than anything else is having a little bit of separation, because I do feel for our property owners, that the one group of the township that has several of them in one area, I feel for them. I don't know what you can do about it right now, but at least this gets something to that, to the neighbors, to the property owners, that they can at least have a little better understanding of it. The one thing that I would also encourage is, aside from any township ordinances, you have several different layers of government. You have the federal government, the state government, the county government, the township government. Everybody in this township has the right to get with her. If you're in a subdivision, you can get with your homeowners association. If you don't have one, there was probably one created maybe many decades ago. You can get that subdivision association established and create your own rules. You can also get with neighbors and create rules based on that. If you can do deed restrictions, there's several different ways that you can encourage your neighbors, you can encourage the community. If this is something you want, you can do several different deed restrictions on your own. So those are different mechanisms that you can help create your own restrictions if you want something more strict than what the township has.
questions?
This is not a question time, thank you. So that's my comment, and I debated, and because I think that this is better than, it's not what I was wanting, but this is better than what I think we currently have, I will be in favor of this as a property owner that owns property on the lake. And with that, I'll ask for a roll call.
Stewart, okay.
Yep.
Leclerc,
Yes.
Lalonde,
Yes.
McKinnon, Halzon, yes.
Okay, so motion passes. Okay, next item, the ordinance update. Our last meeting, we had a couple changes to the ordinance. The Caledonia Township, this planning commission considered, and we passed a new zoning ordinance last year before. And the ordinance that was prior to that was from 2012, if I'm not mistaken. It might have even been a little bit older. And we were encouraged by our planning consultant, which is Northeast Michigan, Denise Nemcog, Council of Governments, to take a look. They're continuously making changes to zoning ordinances based on what other communities are doing, what they're learning. And we went back and looked at two things. One, they had several recommendations for us to do, even in the last couple of years, with respect to battery power, solar, and wind turbines. And just like we did before, we've got basically a new set of rules that kind of comply with what other communities are doing regarding those. We also were asked to take a look at roadside stands for people selling gardening and whatever in their front yards. So we looked at that, and we also looked at several of the different permitted uses that are in the different zoning districts in the township. And this was something that was also done over the course of the last several months. And we've gotten to the point now where we've looked at it, we've made changes, and I think that we're at essentially our final step on this amendment to the new zoning ordinance. So if we pass this tonight, this would go to a public hearing. So this would be published in the Alcona paper, and a copy of this would be posted on the township's website, and we would have a public hearing probably, I don't know if it would be at the July meeting or August meeting. I have to look and see with respect to the timing. But this change is an 1/8 of an inch thick as opposed to a 2-inch thick ordinance. So this is just a modification to the current ordinance. So with that, I think to our members, I think she changed everything and put it in blue, if I'm not mistaken. I can look at our changes that we had last time. So, we had a change on the emergency operations plan. That was section 7.35. See if I can find it in here. toward the end, page. Item 19. Trying to find it.
Let's see if it's in there.
38. Yours is approved, right?
Yeah, I'm looking here. um, Oh, it's on page 27, the emergency response plan. Item number 19. The old version essentially said that the township prepares an emergency response plan, and we changed it to have an applicant prepare an emergency response plan to be approved by the township, approved or denied. One other one. Let's see, which part of that? Yeah, I think that was it. One change that I believe this was not one of the things that we had in the last couple deliberations that we had, but it was early on in these changes was pertaining to data centers. So that's in here now. And I think that was even a thing to even consider prior, so. So with that, I would be willing to entertain any motions of,
Did they take all this out? The line through it, the whole back couple pages there?
I think what she did was she changed the verbiage, she took it out and replaced it.
Yeah, alright.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's wholesale changes where they change the verbiage. Yeah, that was a whole page and a half right there that they took out. Almost 2 pages. Any discussions?
Is there only stuff changed that they talked about?
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty easy because I just marked up mine and just made a photocopy of it and sent it to her, and that's what she did, so. The other thing that we did do with this last version, short-term rentals, she had in this prior to this last version, and we struck that out also. That was right at the tail end.
Kind of funny, it's called the Tall Act. Certain height, they call it the Tall Act.
Oh, yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can look through
Let's see that. So we have a couple options with this one. We can either continue to table it, discuss it more, or vote to move this on to a public hearing.
We can continue to change that.
Once it goes to public hearing, you get public comments and then we can change it at that point.
I
If
mean,
the
just
change,
stay up there, like how she keeps sending us new stuff. how we keep-
yeah, we'd have to continue to, I wouldn't recommend that we do it all the time, but because it's a continuous process, once every year, every couple of years. It
That's
seems
what I
to,
was wondering.
seems to take us a year or so to get it through our system, so.
Yep.
But this is something that NEMCOG and frankly, every community in the state's learning.
Okay. Yeah, as long as we can stay on top of that.
Mhm. There, some of these changes, I know that NEMCOG, Denise is part of a study group. She's become kind of an expert on solar because she's representing so many communities that have solar. And she's part of a group that's involved with University of Michigan that are studying all different aspects of this, and that's where these changes came up that we have here. I don't know much more detail about that, but they have, I'm assuming they have people from all different facets of solar, and that's just for that part of it, and that kind of carries on to the wind, which we don't really have wind here in Caledonia. It's more obviously Alcona's kind of the hotbed of solar right now. So, but this would put us up to the latest and greatest as they see it through a month ago. So, further discussion?
I know we talked about the Township of dams when there's the big thing was, push to have ones that recirculate the water. There's some out there that test the pump and dump it right back in the ground. They go through a shit ton of water. So then you're talking about something now, they'll bring a little mini nuclear power plant and run the whole day and set it off that.
Mm-hmm. I'm not real up on the data center stuff because I've been keeping up to date on a lot of other things, but since I moved up here, I am not involved in those. But the one thing that this does is it talks about an evaluation of impacts both positive and negative on emergency services, water supply, sewage disposal, solid rates, electric rates. So I understand that the data centers are really big users of electricity also. In my, I don't know. All I know is that in my former life, owning a consulting company downstate, when a developer would come in and build a subdivision or a big building, they were responsible for upgrading the facilities to power, for instance, or gas at their own cost. And from what I hear, just on Facebook or wherever, different groups, it seems like the data center comes and everybody's electricity rates go up in the community.
Really?
I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's what I hear. But that's why I think having this item number 4, and I guess it's on page 37, in the first part of it, item number 4, just an evaluation of the potential impacts.
Is this one that is generally being used like throughout our state then,
I would have to assume it is. I don't know, though.
Because it says water supply, but it doesn't say anything about like the impact of what they do with the water and how they put it back into the environment, that kind of thing.
You're right.
Or how it affects like the school facilities. I mean, anything really, you know, it doesn't say if it's a positive or negative effect.
Saw this little blurb about some lady in Wisconsin who lives downstream, and her stream dried up, and then it threw white water, and then it dried up again. And the data center, of course, said, we're looking
That is,
into it.
okay.
But, you know, it makes you wonder. I mean, we have a lot of water around here.
Yeah. Like I said, I just don't know enough about these, how they operate and what they do.
Couldn't tell you the first thing about them except that nobody likes them. Everybody needs them.
Well, there's one of the communities, I think the city, or I think it's city of Saline down in Washtenaw County. I think they have one under construction. I know Nick, our zoning administrator, was working with a couple of them. I don't know where. And I think they were looking at one in Canton, possibly. If we so choose, we could possibly go look at their, see what they did zoning wise and what they required. It's just I don't know enough about that to even know what to go look for other than going looking through their minutes. So, and we can certainly ask Denise to take a look at that a little more if that's something that we want to do, and have her look at it again. But this is all information that was generated from Denise. So, and I know it's a hot topic in the state.
Yeah, everyone's talking about it.
It sure is. Question. So nobody's anxious to make any motions or anything. Whether we voted up or voted down, I guess for the table, I can make a motion to move this proposed zoning amendment to public hearing.
Probably second that.
Second that?
Yeah.
So that would be in the table, and the chair made a motion for the table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So this will go, we'll set this for a public hearing. This will get published. There will be a copy of this here. I'll make sure it gets, is put on record here at the Township Hall, and I'll figure out how to get our webmaster to put this on the website. So, I'll have to look and see when the public hearing will be. If we have time, it'll be in July, and if we don't have time, it'll be in August. So. Okay, with that said, that's the end of old business. Any commissioners have any comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Ken. Second by Ryan. All right, have a good evening, everybody. Our next meeting is July 13th here.
And then the Township the week after.
I think it's a week after.
Well,
Yeah. We just got to look at the minutes from the last one and see what it is. So.
I told you the wrong size.
Oh.
But I didn't read it.